Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we are going to be looking at the summon known as Summon Grizzly. It's a bear bomb. That's what I like to call it. That's the bear bomb. Get the bear bomb. It's a big bad bear. He's a big bad mighty big bear. He's a big bad bear. He's a mighty big bear. He's a big bad bear. He's a mighty big bear. He's a big bad bear. He's a big bad bear. So what do we do with the big bad bear? Well, the big bad bear isn't as big and bad if you don't have his friends. But, he does do a pretty decent amount of damage when he's maxed out. This isn't exactly maxed out. You could get a little bit higher than this. I think you could probably get him about 10 levels higher than I've got him right now. But right now, he's doing 4,171 to 4,322 physical damage. If you take him out and you just play with him, you'll notice he can do some pretty well on his own. Even in players 8, but it is physical damage, which means he does get a lot of that physical damage sort of taken away from him in terms of physical resistance. It definitely would be helpful if you had something to beef him up with, like for instance an effect like amplify damage, which would help him out a lot. Thorns also goes a long way with him too, because obviously if he's in there getting beat on, you definitely would like to have a little bit of Thorns damage to help you out. And you can see he's not having any trouble. Let me take you to Hell difficulty. I believe I was in normal difficulty for demonstration purposes earlier. And I was wondering why he was just absolutely rolling through everything. I'm like, I know he's powerful, but he's not that powerful. Take 2. Come on, big bad bear. Let's see how you do in hell difficulty, sir. So as you can see, he hits decently hard, and I feel like he's really not that great all by himself, but he does do particularly well in a group setting, like with other targets. As you can see, HP-wise, he's not doing bad. His HP is still, fairly nice. He can kill targets by himself, and Maw Fiends have particularly high HP, by the way. Even in Players 1, I mean, this is... they're still relatively high HP monsters. But by himself, he was never really intended to be by himself, I don't think. And in the 2.4 patch, one of the things that they've done is they've made it so that you can spawn all of his friends with him. So now you can have the full zoo. The full zoo, my boys. And this enables the bear to be the absolute monster tank of all tanks. He has a lot of HP, which allows him to just really absorb damage. He has 6,987 HP in his current state. He has pretty good defense, which the defense actually comes from the Spirit Wolves, and he has really nice life, which comes from the Dire Wolves. And quite honestly, the entire combination of the army together actually works out very well. And you can even combine in the Ravens for added damage on top of that. I mean, you've got wolves biting their ankles, you've got ravens biting, pecking at their eyes. Even you got a big bad bear who's in there just doing his absolute darndest. One of the things that you will notice about the bear is that he does knock back targets, so keep that in mind. And as you can obviously tell by the sound that's going on in the background, these guys are loud. It's one thing that I have noticed about running a Zoo Druid ever since I did start one, that they are just, they're really loud. And this is a offline Zoo Druid. He's not actually fully built for this purpose. He does have some summon skiller charms, but he's not wearing the best equipment. He's missing an amuleted rings. Let me take you to my Zoo Druid that's online. I've actually just created one, and let's see how his bear is doing. He is a GGM leader. Let's go ahead and create a game real quick. So the only thing he's missing is Jalal's. He doesn't have summoning charms yet, unfortunately, which is it's just that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Let me just go ahead and put this on for +2 to skills. He doesn't really need that particular helmet, but And this is my little setup here. I have a pretty nice setup with the bear, the druid, the mercenary, all my little wolves, and my bear is currently at level 30, so he's not quite as high as the other one, but he's doing pretty well too. And at 5,525 life, he doesn't really die very often, and I mean, why should he? The bear can be utilized in one of a lot of different ways. You don't have to, obviously, utilize him as I'm utilizing him. You don't have to have a full zoo complement. But the interesting thing about him is that he can be used as a single target tank. Like, for instance, let's say you were a fire druid, or maybe you're a hurricane druid, and you just want the grizzly to tank for you. He can do fairly well even without the synergies, even without all the plus to skills. And this is actually pretty sweet because, quite honestly, if you just want to tank, if you just want to use them as like a Valkyrie or a Shadow Warrior, you know, because that's pretty much what those get used for. You summon the Valkyrie, you let the Valkyrie take the damage, and you dish out your damage from behind him. And the Summon Grizzly is definitely the target for that. Out of all three of the summons, the Summon Direwolf, the Summon Spirit Wolf, and the Summon Grizzly, the Summon Grizzly is definitely the choice in terms of, you know, like a single target to tank for you. And I do feel like he's a little bit better at dishing out single target damage as well. The dire wolves kind of spread out along the map, even though there's only 3 of them, and the spirit wolves definitely spread out along the battlefield because there's 5 of them. And despite the fact that all their damage together, concentrated, can do fairly well versus a single target, you will notice that on the battlefield they are far less effective because they're spreading their damage out too much. Whereas the bear, even though he doesn't do as much as the dire wolves, for instance, he is going to be hitting a single target and he's going to be applying all his damage to that target. And in general, that target is definitely the one that's going to die. One of the things that I've noticed is that running a skeleton necromancer, you have to have a leader on the battlefield. And usually my mercenary is that leader. He runs around dishing out large amounts of damage, and he pushes the battle forward, right? So my skeletons are there to intercept the targets, to prevent the damage from making it to me, to dish out small amounts of damage per skeleton over, you know, the progress of the battlefield. While my mercenary is literally just walking monster to monster going dead, 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 you know? And the Grizzly works very similarly. The Grizzly is kind of like that leader on the battlefield. He walks around the battlefield and he takes out the monsters. And as he does so, he gathers the wolves to him, and it starts to collapse the battlefield onto 1 or 2 particular monsters until everything is dead. And it works out very well that way. Now, the bear by himself, like I said, is a little bit less tanky. So let me go take a look at the bear by himself real quick. We'll look offline so I can do some respecking. If you guys are ever interested in how I respec my characters over and over again, I do have a video up. It's called 7 Commands, and I go through the process of teaching you guys how to set up that respec in offline mode so you can test out things. So let's go ahead and respec him. And what we're going to do is we're only going to put 1 point into the Grizzly, and we're going to take a look and see what he's like with plus the skills. So no synergies, plus the skills. He still has 3,900 life. He still does about 900 to 1,000 damage, which is not bad. And quite honestly, he's still a fairly tanky little monster. Let's go ahead and beef him up only. So at level 39 with no synergies, he still does really nice damage. And the reason is because he is the damage for the group. If you guys are unaware of this, each one of these summons gives a particular thing to the group. The Summon Spirit Wolf is the one that attributes attack rating and defense. The Dire Wolf gives 15% life per level to both the Summon Spirit Wolf and the Grizzly. And it basically, if you have all of them, of course, the Grizzly has more attack rating, he has more defense, he has more life, and in general, he's just a tankier, beastier monster. But you don't necessarily need all of them to have a good Grizzly. In fact, you could very easily build a, for instance, elemental damage shapeshifter, or a elemental damage or a shapeshifter or something like that. Like, for instance, let's say you wanted to be a hurricane druid. That's 20, 40, 60, 80, right? And then, let's see, hold on. 81, because we got to count Arctic Blast. And then 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 96, 106. So you would technically be able to max out your Grizzly and then put a couple more points into maybe Spirit Wolf for the attack rating and defense, or maybe the life for the Dire Wolf. And you can also put a couple more points into your Oak Sage, perhaps, if that's what you'd want to go with. Each of these particular builds are all different, of course. If you want to beef up just the Grizzly, or if you want to beef up the Spirit Wolves as interceptors, they actually do work pretty good as interceptors. I've seen them used in PvP relatively effectively for that purpose. The Summon Spirit Wolves may not even be that high of life, but what happens is let's say you have a Necromancer who's shooting Bone Spirits at you, or you have a Sorceress who's shooting Frozen Orbs at you. The Summon Spirit Wolves will intercept the missiles that do not pierce and will kill them. And even if the Summon Spirit Wolf dies in the process, it doesn't matter. He's now intercepted, 33 or 35,000 damage, on like a maxed out mega attack that doesn't pierce. Doesn't matter. Even if he doesn't have enough life to absorb that attack, he takes the attack and he dies, and that attack doesn't hit you. And that's what's important. Basically, the PvP druids will just keep summoning the Spirit Wolves over and over again. But if you're utilizing him to tank bosses and things like that, the summon Grizzly is probably the better choice, because he has more HP, he dishes out more damage, and he's just generally more tanky in general. There's really not a lot more to go over when it comes to the Summon Grizzly, and I do feel like he works better in the pack, but if you want to use him as your own personal Valkyrie for your Druid, that's actually a pretty good choice. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we are talking about the Grizzly Bear. And keep watching.